I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor.
Hey, Dana.
Of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper.
Hey, Jake. How are you guys?
And co-anchor of State of the Union.
In my
Dana
universe, I have a woman, African American, trans president.
Tonight. Before
we have progressive agenda policies with a young, vibrant leader. But Plazookas world, you got these two old hacks.
Determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question.
Yeah,
and
2 minutes. That's all you got.
For responses and rebuttals.
And you can't be like, I forgot the answer to the question. I don't know the answer to the question.
At the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on, and his opponent's microphone
Wait a minute.
will be
You're going to turn on microphones and off
Should
microphones?
The candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted.
I mean,
it will be difficult to understand.
Why can't they
for
just?
viewers at
I thought it
home.
was like the First Amendment.
Debate,
you could just
each
speak whatever you want.
Get 2 minutes for closing.
You telling me we can't have banter between the two?
Studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or context
friggin' made my costume anyway?
are not permitted during the debate.
Hold on 1
By
second.
accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Oh, did they?
Now, please welcome.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Probably Trump will come out and say, "I didn't agree." Oh my God, he's walking like a machine. I'm a robot. I'm a robot. Please help me. Don't come out and try to push me, otherwise I'll fall over.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Oh, I'm a mushroom man. I'm the Ghostbuster person. I don't know what they're called. The Marshmallow Man.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently
get right into
say
it. Good.
is their top concern, the economy.
Oh,
President Biden, inflation
I know
has
something about the
slowed,
economy.
but
I'm
prices
rich.
remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials
see if I can
has
drink this.
increased.
Are you here to watch
a basket
them?
of groceries that
Or are you here to
cost
listen to me?
$100 then now costs more than $120.
I can't drink that.
And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%.
Yeah, inflation's
What do
a
you say to
bitch.
voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
Oh,
We
no.
got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled.
What the fuck
Many
happened
people
to
were
his
dying.
voice?
All he said was, "It's not
Has
that
he been
serious.
debating that
Just
hard?
inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right."
Can you give the man a lozenge, please?
There were no
I can't
jobs.
fucking hear him.
Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible.
This
And
is
so
so
what
much
we had to
pressure
do is
on the
try to
president of the
put things
United
back
States. He
together
can't even handle a
That's
conversation
exactly
in a
what we began
debate.
to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have
Oh, we're
800,000
fucked.
new manufacturing
Oh,
jobs.
we're dead,
But
guys.
There's more to be done.
Trump's gonna win
There's
this.
more to be done. Working class people
He's
are
gonna be
still in
done. He was
trouble.
already gonna be
I
president
come
before
from
this,
Scranton,
but
Pennsylvania. I come of household.
you better
where
clear
the
his
kitchen
throat.
table
You better
for
take a
things weren't
lozenge.
able to be met
Somebody,
during the month. It was a
Secret Service,
problem.
give him a lozenge,
Price of
please.
eggs, the price
He
of
needs it
gas,
really
the
bad.
price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. That we're going to make sure that we reduce
can't even
the
get
price
through
of
a
housing.
2-minute
We're gonna make sure
conversation.
we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination of what I was left with is corporate
Newsflash,
greed is the
Joe.
reason why we're in this
Corporate
problem
greed's
right now.
taking over
In addition to
regardless of
that,
what you do.
We're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time
I
he
need a
left,
friggin'
things
drink
were
like
in
Joe
chaos.
needs a drink.
Things
Joe,
were
you need a
in
drink.
chaos.
You need some
And
water,
so we
bro.
put things back together. We created,
I need a
said, those
drink.
jobs.
I can't
We
take
make
off my
sure
mask,
we had
though.
a situation where
Oh,
we
man, this is
now-
gonna be difficult. I need a
we
straw.
brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major
Hold on.
issue for
I'm
many
going to go get a
people.
straw. Let this
To
man talk for a
$15
minute, okay? I'm not going to
for,
interrupt him.
A insulin shot as
I'll be
opposed
back.
to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible.
Yeah, he sounds bad as Robert
The
Kennedy.
only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Yeah, but it was killing us before that anyway. It's not all Joe's
Well, look,
fault.
the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he's the greatest
Are
economy in
you
the world.
fucking an idiot?
And, you know, the fact of the
I
matter
go
is
shopping and
that,
it costs 50% more than it
find
did a year
ourselves in a
ago, and 50%
situation
more
where
than it did 2 years ago.
His economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest
that's
tax
true,
cut
he
in
did.
American history, $2 trillion.
And that's a benefit to his Republican Party. They like that.
He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover.
What?
The idea that he did something that was
That was because of
significant
COVID.
in the military.
Joe.
You know, when
That
he
was
was
bad
president, there were still
takes,
killing
man. Bad
people in
takes. There's
Afghanistan.
more things you can go
He
after
didn't do
him.
anything about that.
I don't know.
When
The
he was
fact that he's a
president, we
convicted
still find
felon.
ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe
fact-
country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any.
The fact that he wanted to have you drink bleach while COVID was going on.
like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want
That's
to
fair.
follow up.
Good
You
job,
want
Jake.
to impose
Way to
a
keep it
10%
civil
tariff
and
on all goods
orderly.
coming into the U.S. How will you ensure
You're
that
like an
that
orderly in
doesn't
a
drive prices even
old
higher?
folks home
How
right
can
now.
drive them higher? It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs.
Yeah, Republicans
and the
love
jobs
that.
went
They're
down,
like,
and then
oh,
they
yeah,
bounced
give me
back,
more
and
tax
he's
cuts.
taking credit for bounce back jobs.
I want to live
You
in
can't do
Texas,
that.
so I don't have to pay for
He
taxes.
also said
Oh.
he inherited
I love
9%
America, but I don't want to pay
inflation.
for it.
He inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like
but
a
it's not
bunch
all
of
his
people
fault.
that didn't know
China.
what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as
Well, I mean,
Afghanistan
technically,
is concerned,
it's not the
I was
worst.
getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with
Hey,
strength,
hey, do you like my
with
straw?
power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our
it's
country's
refreshing.
life.
Joe, drink
President
some
Trump,
water,
over
Joe.
the last 8 years,
Joe,
under both
Trump's
of your
voice sounds clear.
administrations,
You
the
need to drink some
national
water,
debt
bud.
soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say.
Yeah, just
With the
let them all
U.S.
just,
facing
like, not pay
trillion-dollar
anything, 'cause
deficits
the
and
government
record
doesn't
debt,
run on
why
money.
should top earners and
runs
corporations
on
pay even less in
unicorns and
taxes
rainbows.
than they do now?
Because the tax cuts
It runs
spurred
on
the
immigrant
greatest
children.
economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much
It runs
better
on
than just
people
about
that are
any
working
other
under the
country.
table.
But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before. And we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet.
Holy fuck,
the oil
these
and gas
guys
right
look
under our
old.
feet. We were going to have something that
Trump looks a
nobody
little
else
younger,
has
though.
had.
I'm not gonna
we
lie.
got hit with COVID.
Biden looks
we did
fucking
a lot
old.
to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More
Dark
people
Biden's
died under
coming.
his administration
I can
than
see
our
the eyes turning
administration,
red.
and we were
All right,
right in
come
the
on,
middle
baby.
of it. Something which
Let
a lot
that-
of people don't
let
like to
that
talk
miracle
about.
drug
But he had
kick
far
in.
more people dying in his
You drink your
administration.
Gatorade?
He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The
Come on, this
vaccine
is
went
the
out. He
longest
did a
2 minutes
mandate
ever.
on the vaccine, which is the thing that
Very
people
painful.
most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect
Well,
our
I mean,
leadership.
let's be fair.
They
That
don't
has
respect the
both of
United
you
States
to
anymore.
blame, not just
we're like
one.
a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. the damage he's done to our country.
Yeah.
And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
Uh-oh.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000
fuck you got to
trillionaires
fix
in
the
America.
tax system?
I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes.
We've been
If
hearing
they
this
just
for
paid
20 fucking years, Biden.
25%, either one of those numbers.
Ain't nobody
They'd
fixed this
raise
shit because of all the
$500
fucking
million,
corporate greed that happens
billion dollars, I
in
should
our
say,
society.
in a 10-year period.
All the interest
We'd
groups
be
that
able to
happen in
wipe out his debt.
politics.
We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to
Ain't
make
happening,
every
bro.
single solitary
Healthcare got worse.
person,
Child care got worse.
right,
Education got
eligible
worse.
for
What are you
I've
going to
been able
do, man?
with
It's your presidency right now.
With the
You got to
COVID,
work with the
excuse me,
Republicans. Because they are
dealing
mean.
with everything we have to do with
I'm going to sound like Biden after this.
if
Uh-oh.
we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Holy fuck, we're
He's
fucked.
right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming
my
in.
God, Trump's
they're
got
putting
it.
them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social
I would
Security. They're
rate
gonna
this right
destroy
now.
Social Security.
I'm
this
gonna
man
give
is
Trump
going to
a
single-handedly
9 out of 10. I'm
destroy
gonna give
Social
Biden
Security.
a
These
5 out of
millions
10.
and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be
my
believed.
God.
Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills.
Yeah.
They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions.
Yeah.
As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great
Well, I
Supreme
don't know what
Court
you're expecting
justices
by
on
he's
the
gonna
court,
fucking lie,
and they happened
or he's
to
gonna
vote in
he's gonna say
favor
things
of
that are,
killing Roe v.
you know,
Wade
mischaracterized.
and moving
I
it
mean,
back to
this
the
is supposed
states.
to be your
This is
debate prep,
something that
buddy.
everybody wanted.
You're obviously over-prepped
Now, 10
because
years
you
ago
can't
or
even
so,
talk
they
now.
started talking about how many weeks and how many this.
You sound
and
like
getting
me, and I had to
into
go through a
other things. But
multiversal
every legal
time
scholar
warp just to get
throughout
here
the
again.
world, the most respected,
Let me tell you, that
wanted it
fucking
brought
shit
back
is
to the states.
really
I did
painful.
that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different.
What is
but
this
they're all
Gandhi
making
stare
their own
we got going
decisions
on
right
here?
now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have
Yeah,
is
and
they're
that means you'll
radical
say that you
because
don't
they
agree
will
with that, just
take
to
the
make
life
sure
of
that
a
your
child
heart and
in
right
the 8th
group
month, the 9th
votes for
month,
you.
and even after
They'll say,
birth.
nah,
After birth,
nobody
if you
can
look
have
at
an
the
abortion.
former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states,
Oh,
and
we're
the
doing the
country
Virginia
is
thing
now
again?
coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they were all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule.
I mean,
look, there's so many
that's a
young
good
women
point.
who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of
I don't
young
fucking
women
get
being
this guy.
raped by their in-laws, by their spouses.
Is this what Techno thinks I talk like?
It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country.
The rhetoric
and
is
they
strong
are
with this
raping
one.
and killing women.
The rhetoric is
and
strong
it's a
with
terrible
Trump.
thing. As far
He
as
knows
the
all the
abortion is
rhetoric
concerned,
points.
it is now back with the
And
states.
it's
The states
feeding.
are voting.
It's feeding his
In
audience
many
so
cases,
well.
it's,
That's so
frankly,
good.
a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite.
Oh, I love
But
it.
they're
Oh,
voting,
feed me
and it's
more of
bringing it
that.
back to
Oh,
the
that's
vote of
good
the
red
people,
meat.
which is
Oh.
what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Yeah.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden,
Yeah, abortion.
7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states
Don't look
have
at Dana
no
like
legal
that.
restrictions
She's a woman.
on how
You're
far
gonna lose
into
all the
a
women vote if
pregnancy
you
a
keep on
woman
looking at her
can
like that.
obtain
Stop
an
it,
abortion.
Biden.
Do you support any
You look
legal
disgusted.
limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor.
Oh, I'm supposed to
Second
have a
time
treadmill?
is between the doctor
Why?
and an extreme situation. The third time
Hold
is
on.
between the doctor.
my bad.
I mean, between
I
the
didn't know
woman
that.
and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions
Ow.
on a woman's health is ridiculous.
Fucking
It's
chair.
the last. No
me
politician
out.
should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can
Aye.
take the life of the
my
baby
beautiful face
in
up
the
front,
9th month
up close.
and even after birth,
I was
because
told by a
some
chatter,
states,
"Where's my
Democrat
treadmill?"
run,
Well,
take
guess
it
what?
after birth. Again, the
I don't
governor,
have a
former
treadmill,
governor of
but I can
Virginia,
mime one.
put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it.
Yeah.
So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month.
Yeah, rip
and
the
kill
baby out. I
Nobody
didn't say
wants
it.
that to
Somebody
happen.
did.
Democrat or Republican, nobody wants it to happen.
I'm on my fake treadmill.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance. in which
Yeah,
that
that's
can
right.
happen.
Get 'em,
But
Biden.
we are not for late-term abortion.
Yeah,
period.
let those performance
Period,
enhancing drugs
period.
kick in.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51
Wow.
years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51
years.
And it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do?
Yeah, though they
What's
can
he
take
gonna
the
do, in
life
fact,
after,
if
before,
the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans
multiversal,
control the
after
Congress, and they
multiversal,
pass a universal ban on abortion,
all of
period,
it.
across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's
Yeah,
turn
it
now to
can
the
be-
issue
it
of
can be after.
immigration
It's
and
an
border
M&M,
security.
M&M
President
peanut.
Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch.
That's true.
Overwhelming border states and
That's true.
overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago,
It's
and in some
unfortunate.
cases causing real safety and
Now he's
security
gonna say,
concerns.
"Oh, I closed it
Given
down
that, why should voters trust
a
you
month ago.
to solve this
Too
crisis?
late. You
Because we
lose.
worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that.
A little
and
late.
made sure that we are in a situation where you
Hold
had
on.
no
I gotta go back on my
circumstance where
treadmill.
they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position.
Oh, yeah? You think so?
In addition
Big
to that, we
corporate
found
greed?
ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was taking
Union parties
separating
supported
babies
you?
from their mothers, putting them in cages.
Hey, listen,
making
Donald,
sure they were,
I got
the
supported
families
by
were
a
separated.
union.
That's not
Well,
the
so
right
far,
way to
Biden,
go.
you're losing.
What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move
What,
until we get
the last
total
month that's
ban
happened?
on the total initiative.
You like my
relative
treadmill?
To what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Oh,
Look,
my God.
we had the
Trump
safest
is
border
so
in the
good
history
right
of our
now.
country.
He's
The
kicking
border-
his
all he had to
ass.
do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided
I'm gonna
to
bring
open
down
up our
Biden to
border,
4 out of
open up
10.
our country to
9 out of
people
10
that
for
are
Trump, 4 out of 10 for
from
Biden. This is
prisons.
bad.
people that are from mental institutions,
You know what I
insane
hope?
asylums.
After this, Biden
terrorists.
says, you
We have
know
the
what?
largest number of
I don't wanna
terrorists
go for
coming into
another
our country
re-election.
right now. All
Let's get
terrorists
another
all
candidate
over
out.
the world, not
And guess
just
who's
in
gonna
South
come?
America. All
Michelle
over the world,
Obama.
they come from the Middle East, everywhere.
Michelle Obama's
all
like,
over the world,
hey,
they're pouring
Trump,
in.
you want to have more debates with
And
me?
this
Let's
guy
go.
just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had,
Hey, I'm gonna go
according to
skiing
Border
now,
Patrol,
okay?
who is great. And by
I'm
the
gonna
way,
go
who
skiing. I'm
endorsed
off
me
my
for
treadmill now.
president.
I'm gonna go
But
skiing.
I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history.
Who's
Now
Brandon?
we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the
Did he
place,
just
including
reference
the
Let's
people
Go
that are coming
Brandon?
out in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden?
Did he
The only
just- did he
terrorist
reference
who's
Let's Go
done
Brandon?
anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration killed an Al Qaeda.
can barely hear
person
you,
come in
bud.
and his administration.
very weak voice.
Killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying
man,
the
we're so
prisons,
fucked.
we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said.
Oh,
Once
there's a
again,
tree.
he's
Hold on, I gotta
exaggerating,
ski out
he's
of it.
lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of
there's
immigration,
another ski.
you
Hold
said
on.
that you're going to carry out,
Oh,
quote, the
shit,
largest
almost hit
domestic
that one.
deportation operation in American
skiing.
history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses
Yep,
are citizens,
every one of 'em.
and including those who have lived here for decades? And if
Ice
so,
on steroids.
how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani.
They're all
the two
terrorists.
greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just
Terrorist
border,
is a trigger
on
word.
everything.
He say it and it
He's the one that
solves all
killed people
problems.
with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in
killing
the
our
union,
people.
because we
They're
don't have
taking our
borders
jobs.
anymore. Every state is now
They're
a
sending
border.
drugs through the
And because
border.
of his
The rhetoric is
ridiculous,
strong with this one, I tell
insane,
ya.
and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that
You
we've
took a big
never
gulp on
seen
that
before.
one.
And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible.
very, very
what's
bad
taken
that it
place.
happened
What's
so
taken
soon
place in our country.
before this debate.
We're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want
Yeah,
it to
but
be. He just
we were
doesn't
uncivilized
know.
when
He
you were
opened the
president, too,
borders.
Trump.
Nobody's ever seen anything like.
Okay,
And we
it's
have
just
to
the
get a
fact
lot
that
of
we
these
thought
people out, and
maybe
we have to
Biden
get them
would do
out
better,
fast
and he hasn't.
because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where
The
they're
problem
living.
is you might be able
They're
not be able
living
to
in
speak for 5
luxury
minutes before he gets
hotels
hoarse.
in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody
Wait,
been worse.
wait.
I had the highest
Trump,
approval rating
Biden,
for
you better get him
veterans
on this
taking
one.
care of the VA. He has the worst.
Because
He's
you're the
gotten
one,
rid of all
Trump,
the
you're the
things
one
that
that
I
said you don't
approved.
like
Joyce,
veterans.
that I got through Congress, all of the
You said
different
that they
things
were
I
stupid for
approved.
their sacrifice.
They abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come
thank
in.
you.
And
President
it's a
Biden.
very
Moving on.
sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie.
Go
Every
ahead.
single one.
Let's see.
For
Let's hear it.
example,
We need facts.
Veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have
right,
insurance,
get 'em.
and their families have it. Their families have it because what
Get 'em.
happened, whether it was Agent Orange or
Get 'em
Bird
for the
Pits,
veterans.
they're all being covered now, and his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits. Came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers.
There
and
we go. We
suckers."
got him.
My son was not
You
a
got a
loser.
point
He's
there,
not a
Joe.
sucker.
5 out of 10
You're the
now, buddy.
sucker. You're the loser.
Let's get him, boys.
President Trump.
Second half's on live.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people
Well,
that
sue
said I
him then.
didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about
Yeah,
our
who would
veterans?
say that?
Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have.
Can we get a soundbite?
Think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have
Your
19
general said that. You
people
said that.
said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said
I
that
think
the
Joe's bringing it
laptop
alive.
was Russia disinformation.
I think
It
the medicine's
wasn't.
kicked
that
in.
came from his son, Hunter. It
That
wasn't
Robitussin,
Russia
that Dayquil's
disinformation.
finally
He
gotten
made up the suckers
into
and
a
losers,
system.
so he should apologize
Let's
to
go.
me right now.
Joe.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it.
There we go.
Period. That's number 1.
6 out of 10, Joe.
And
We got
number
him.
2, the idea that I have to apologize
My
to
dog's
you for
looking at me
anything
mad.
along
I
the
mean,
line.
Multiversal
We've done more
Plazookas
for
dog is
veterans
looking
than
at
any
me
president
mad.
has in American history.
It's okay.
American
Love you.
history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war.
Let's go.
That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is
Good job,
doing
Joe.
now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our
Good
history.
job, veterans.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I
Yeah,
want to begin
this
with
is a fucking
Russia's
snooze
war
fest.
against Ukraine,
Ain't nobody
which
cares about
is now
America.
in its
Oh,
third
wait.
year.
Oh, this is the war.
Former President Trump,
I don't like talking
Russian
about this.
President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed
Holy shit.
and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms
Wow.
acceptable to you?
First of all,
Let's go.
our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They
What?
can't stand him. They think he's the worst
That's a pretty
commander in
good
chief,
comeback,
if that's what you
but
call him, that we've ever
I'm gonna
had.
give Joe
They
the win
can't
on that
stand
one.
him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of
I
information.
would say that most
as far as Russia
military
and
people
Ukraine,
don't like presidents to
if we
begin
had a
with.
real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he
I agree with
encouraged
that.
Russia
In
for going
Palestine,
in.
too. In
I'll
Gaza,
tell you what
you can
happened.
double,
He was
triple
so
those
bad
numbers.
with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals.
That's an
no
acknowledgement.
general got fired for the most
That's an
embarrassing
acknowledgement. Trump did
moment
say it.
in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind.
Yeah.
We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take my. This was his dream.
Maybe that
I talked to him
happened.
about it. His dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never.
we didn't say anything bad about
Just
Putin.
like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why?
Why?
Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money.
Oh, right.
They were
It's
broke. They
Iran
had no
that
money for Hamas.
funded it all. I
They had no
remember
money
now.
for
That's the
anything.
talking point
No
from the
money for terror.
Republicans.
That's why you had no terror at all during my administration.
Yeah, no
this
terror.
Place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of
Malarkey?
the matter is
That's
that
an
we're
old
in a
term.
situation where, let's take
Millennials
the
don't
last point
understand
first.
malarkey.
Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops.
Yeah.
And he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one.
Okay, maybe.
Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish.
Yeah, he didn't say anything bad about
and
Putin.
he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He
Trump
didn't
lost
able
the
to get
point.
it done.
He's down to 8.
And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops.
Yeah, Trump's lost the point.
500,000
That was bad.
troops.
Good job,
President Trump,
Biden.
I never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute. I just want
But
to
you
go
did.
back to my original question, which is,
I
are
heard it in my
Putin's
I heard
terms
it from
acceptable to you?
Plazooka.
Keeping the
Plazooka told me
territory in
just before the
Ukraine.
debate.
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started.
Oh,
If we
yeah,
had a
it was
leader
'cause
in
of
this
Obama.
war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every
A lot
time
of money.
that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that
What?
war settled.
How are you going to have
being
it? As
killed
president-elect?
so
Oh, you got to get
needlessly,
voted in
so
first, and then you'll,
stupidly.
and then a month before you
I
get
will get
elected.
it settled,
or
and I'll get it settled fast
sworn
before
in.
I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire.
Union.
Not just a piece. He wants all
Yeah.
of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then do you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when
Well, maybe not.
if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens
let
to
me look
Poland?
at
What do
Trump's
you think
mind and let me see if
NATO
he's gonna stop
What do you
there.
think happens to those NATO countries?
Hold on, I'm looking.
And so if you want a war,
I got to remove
you
that
ought to
little
find
hairspray
out
on the
what
top
he's
of his
gonna
head.
do, because
Yep,
if in fact
you ain't
he
gotta
does
stop
what
there.
he
You gotta
says
keep
and
going.
walks away. And by the way, all that money we give Ukraine,
Yeah, they will
and from
be.
weapons
They
we
will
make
be.
here in the United
I
States,
love
we give them
Obama.
weapons,
I mean,
not the
Plazookas
money
loves
at this
Obama.
point.
That's what he told me
And,
before the
and our
debate.
NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this
you've been very
conflict,
soft on this
but so
proposal.
far, Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas
Nothing.
and
He's too
Israel
scared.
to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one,
Come on.
everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people.
Yeah, that's very good.
We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so that's
Well, now that you're embracing it.
Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get
Trump's
Hamas
gonna push back
like
and say,
we
no,
did
you
Bin
haven't.
Laden.
You haven't been that
We don't
strong.
have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for what using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to
why are you
ask
talking
these
about
people
Israel?
to put up
Hold
the
on.
money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location.
Why don't you
because
talk
we
about
have
Israel?
an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO.
Get
Are
him.
you going to stay in NATO?
Get him.
He's going to pull out of NATO.
He's not going to stay in
The
NATO.
idea that we
He's
have,
going to get out.
Our strength lies in our alliances as well.
All right, it's good.
It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in,
What was
in
I at?
Europe,
6?
a major war in
This might be
Europe?
7 out of 10.
What happens if, in fact,
I think
you
they're
have
tied.
Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack
I'm-
on
and
all.
I'm- and I'm
You wanna
great enough
start the
for
nuclear war
elderly
he keeps
people.
talking about. Go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. You see what happens then.
Hold on, I need
he
some
has
more
no
makeup.
idea what the hell he's talking about.
Hold
and by
on.
the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
Come on,
We
baby.
have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States.
Yeah.
And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food,
Yeah.
their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's
Thank you.
bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day,
We're going all the
some
way
of
back
them
there,
stormed
huh?
the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes.
Yeah.
As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do
Yeah,
you say
what's
to
your
voters who
statement?
believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Are you going to say
Well,
it's
I don't
because of
think
legal
too many
matter?
believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th,
Yeah.
we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few.
Oh, wow. Way to
On
way
January
to
6th, we
deflect.
were energy independent. On January 6th, we had
Way
the
to
lowest
deflect.
taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world.
Yeah.
All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Yeah, what do you say about
Well,
it?
I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it, too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president.
Yeah, he came out and said they're great Americans.
To do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and,
patriots.
and great patrons of
That's
America.
right.
In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done.
That's true, he did. He said he will pardon them.
He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases.
A lot.
Scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail.
Yeah, but what about Pelosi not allowing National Guard to come in?
And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
That's a fair point.
What they've done to some people that are so innocent,
tied.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities. You go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats.
Yeah.
They destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
I'm going to come over here
The only
this time.
person on this stage is a convicted felon, this
space.
man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those
I
people,
agree with
every
that,
one of those who were
but
convicted deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing.
He did.
Will you denounce these guys?
Good job, Joe. You're still tied, though, because I'm not giving you that.
Now?
I'm not giving you that
you
point
denounce
yet.
the people who attacked that.
You got to make up for that lousy ass
What are you
beginning.
going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have.
That's weird.
After a jury convicted
don't make
you
it sound
of
like
34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon. at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden,
I mean, I agree with that. We have a system
right
that's rigged and disgusting.
Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea
that
I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with.
Think of all the
civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of
Holy
things,
shit, he went there. Holy fuck me.
On the night
okay, Joe, you get a point. You get 8 out of 10.
I mean,
you're losing now, Trump.
What are you talking about?
You're losing now.
Oh,
the camera zoomed in too. This is getting hot.
I didn't have sex with a porn star.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats.
You don't have a gag order. You can say things about it now, Trump.
And both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up way up. You know that because you're reporting
that doesn't matter.
And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken
does not care if you're guilty,
millions
if
of
you
dollars
murder,
came
if you rape.
because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
You lose.
Thank you, President Trump.
President
Biden,
you didn't get a
have
point.
said,
You're still
quote,
7 out of 10.
Donald Trump and his MAGA
8 out of 10.
Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done.
That's a fair
answer.
There's
a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around.
That's true.
He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what
and I don't think the Supreme Court brought the immunity charge yet.
I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic ball they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones that got killed, the one that tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say? Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas. We're fine people.
This is good.
This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are.
I'm going to give you an 8.1 out of 10 because of the slow-ass start you had. You get a 0.1%.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor, every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows
this
that,
is not
and
good.
He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
Trump.
President Biden?
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time.
Yeah, I was there. I was there.
Somehow that's the only reason I ran.
was there.
I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches.
I was there.
And he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all.
I remember that.
The idea that he's talking about
8.2.
all this
You get
being
another
fabricated.
0.1.
We saw with our own eyes. We saw
job.
what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying the
All right,
his
here
own
we
vice
go.
president.
Let's
Look, there's
go.
a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused
It's
to
another
endorse him this
rhetoric,
time.
but it works.
His vice
Trump's
president
rhetoric
hasn't
worked
endorsed him
too.
this time.
That's why I gave him
So
the points.
Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
That's right.
Thank you,
Oh,
President Biden. We're going to be
that's pretty
right
good.
back with more from the CNN
What?
presidential debate.
There's commercials? We don't have commercials in my multiverse. Well, that's some bullshit. How much did they pay? We're talking about Istanbul. Istanbul paid for this commercial. It's probably their whole entire country budget. Go Turkey. I don't get it. The CNN usually have these kind of commercials. I was gonna mute it, but it wasn't that bad. All right, what's this?
Hi there. I'm an ad.
What
Ever
the
notice
fuck?
how some ads just speak to you?
Is this Deadpool versus
Savvy
Wolverine?
advertisers place their ads where people like you actually are.
Yeah.
Streaming your favorite programs.
What
That's
the
why they
fuck
choose
is
Viant
fourth
to make an
dimensional?
impression.
You're breaking all the walls.
So, if you want the latest AI-powered buying tools to execute and measure your connected TV
Yeah.
campaigns on premium streaming inventory,
Yeah.
choose wisely. Choose Viant.
What the
I've spent
fuck
my
is
career
Viant?
working in tech, and today I run my own software company. I'm excited about the future of American innovation.
Who authorized these
especially with
commercials?
artificial
Where's the
intelligence,
Budweiser
where
commercial?
the U.S. currently leads the world. American researchers are making exciting new discoveries, and U.S.
Where's the
companies are
tobacco
investing
commercial? Oh,
billions
that's right,
in
they don't have
AI
tobacco
solutions
commercials
that will
anymore.
strengthen small businesses. But foreign
Where's
competitors
the
like China
anti-tobacco
want to
commercial, the
surpass
truth
America
commercial?
in AI. Our leaders need to protect America's competitive edge.
Yeah. All right. Here we are, back in it. All right, let's
Welcome
go.
back to the CNN presidential debate
Woo,
live from
halfway.
Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in a second term.
Right.
President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families.
Uh-oh.
Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans.
That's a lot.
What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time.
Why do we go to commercial
Number
break?
three,
He needs to warm up his
we're
lyrics.
providing housing
Lyrics.
for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that
Uh-oh.
exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out
You're
of
losing
their
the point,
houses.
Joe.
And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly
Yeah,
difficult.
you're getting it. You're bringing it
When
back.
we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great
you're gonna
deal
lose
so
your
far,
point
and
to
I'm not
points
letting
because
up
if
and they
you're-
know it.
You have
cold.
49 seconds left. What
Holy
do you say
shit.
to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. inflation is still hurting them badly.
Yeah.
For example, I provided for the idea that any black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home.
He's going to eat
so
that
they
up.
can get started.
He's going to eat that
I
up.
made sure that
You're
we're in a
fucked,
situation
Joe.
where
He's going to eat
all
that
those
up.
black families
I
and
agree.
black individuals
But he's going to eat it up.
had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism,
All right.
if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt,
I expect
all
Trump
the
to
rest is
eat
forgiven after
your
10
lunch,
years.
so I'm going to give
Millions
you.
have
I'm going to
benefited
lock you
from
down
that.
0.7
And we're gonna
points.
do a
You're back to
whole lot more
7.5.
for black families.
Thank you,
Trump's at
President Trump.
6.9.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation. And he's right. It's been very bad.
It's on his.
He caused
It's
the
on his
inflation,
watch.
and it's killing
ultimately.
black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people.
That hurts.
They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't.
That's true.
You look at the cost of food, where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment.
Okay.
He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated.
It was after
the economy.
COVID, Joe.
That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs.
It was
for
after
individuals
COVID, Joe.
who were in all communities, incling minority communities. We made sure
Inflation
that
would
they
have
had
happened
health
regardless,
insurance.
probably.
We have covered. The ACA has increased. I made sure that there are $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police.
Smart.
How close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group.
I think that's
and
fair.
what he's done to
All right,
the
you get your
black
point back. You're back at
population
7.
is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening.
I don't remember that, but it's
when
possible.
they see what I did for criminal justice reform
Use your point
and
back,
for the
though. You're
historically
7 in
black
Biden's at
colleges
7.5.
and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know. Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country.
Who's his vice president?
Zones.
Did he already release
and
it?
The biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe
Is it
ever.
Tim
They're
Scott?
saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it We had H2O.
I don't know
we
about
had
that.
the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. In history, we find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have.
They don't
Build these laboratories.
Which is bullshit.
Any black student is capable in college of doing what any white student can do. They just don't have the money. But now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He must undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States.
Okay.
And I ended it
I think
because
that
I
does
didn't
speak
want
well
to
to
waste that
Americans
money
right now,
because they
so
treat us
with
horribly. We
inflation,
were the only ones who
you
was
get a
costing
point.
us money. Nobody
7.1
else
out of
was paying
7.5.
into it.
Let's go.
And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that.
I don't know
and
about
I want
that.
to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control? One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned
gamer, I can't. Not with this on.
And about climate, I've not seen any indication.
And that
of
was Plazookas
And by the
was on
way,
you, not Multiversal.
with regard to
by the way,
prescription drugs,
here, I'll
one
eat something for
company
you. Hold on.
agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, voluntarily. I made sure
I got
every
something for
company
you.
in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
Yeah.
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For
That's
many
right.
older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline.
But not
President
much.
Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
All right.
Right now,
Let's go.
everybody making under $170,000.
You get a point for that one, Joe.
Of their
7.6.
income, of their paycheck. Every
Here you go,
single time they get
gamer,
a paycheck from
for
the,
you.
the first one they get
It's a
when they're
rice.
18 years old.
It's a right.
The idea that they're going to,
Let's see if I can eat it.
I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no,
I can't
that
eat it.
one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare. Both
Yeah,
times.
you have.
And that's what. And if you look
Get
at
him, Joe.
the program put forward by the House Republican
I
caucus
can't eat this.
that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. The only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face about so many other things, too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation.
I don't like it.
The losers and sucker story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels.
7.2.
He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired.
Oh, shit.
Because he's the one.
All right, you get a point. 7.7.
He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one.
That means
Number
you have
two,
recollection.
The idea that we're going to be in a
at least
situation
10,
where
20 minutes.
all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world.
Why?
The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world.
Why?
We're doing better than any other nation in the world.
Why?
And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good.
Oh.
And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him.
Oh.
The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show. The most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
You get a point.
7.3. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate.
You got to rely back on the
He's
immigration
the worst president.
when you know you're
He just said about me because I said
in hot water because you don't want to talk about Social Security.
He's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country.
You don't want to talk about Social Security.
He's trying to get a little tough on the border. He
don't want to talk about child care.
A nothing deal.
You lose a point.
And he reduced it a little bit.
You back down to
7.2. Like this much. It's insignificant.
You back down to 7.2.
He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America.
I think we used
There's
to be.
nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online.
Yeah, let's look it up.
159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history.
Right.
One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he isn't doing anything to deal with child care. He did
This is the most professional these two have ever been in my life.
Increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability.
I will say that this debate, as an overall
single parents to be able to go back to work, and we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable. If you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst.
Yeah, that's true.
Because what he's done is so bad.
That's true.
And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created a economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times.
Talk about policies.
He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire.
Yes.
So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes.
Pay
when we cut
your
taxes, as I
taxes.
said, we did more business.
You live in the
Apple
safest,
and all these companies,
most secure,
they were bringing
Plazookas
money back
does.
into our country.
I mean, I'm fine.
The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about. He's increased the tariff. He will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that were imported. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country.
Yeah, it will.
We have the largest deficit of any president in American history.
All right,
you
get another point, Joe.
Number two,
I don't know where we're at. We have 7.8 or 7.9.
Any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis.
Yeah,
and for
big
both
one.
of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up.
That's bad.
Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Yeah.
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something.
I mean, that's red meat for your audience. They love it.
Because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China.
Oh, yeah, feed me
he
more,
never took
Trump.
them away. He
Oh,
can't because
feed
it's
me
too
more of
much
that.
money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come. But he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Go ahead.
I think we're doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years
on the
like
COVID.
Nobody's ever had before, any country.
Blame it on the COVID. Oh, here we go.
And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border.
Oh, the border.
It started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it.
Dog.
We did a lot.
Solve all the problems.
We were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
Yeah,
President
the border
Trump,
might
thank you,
do
President
it.
Biden.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. Good
job, Joe.
We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, because this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office.
You're not answering the question.
Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out.
You've had
he should
three
have had him out a
policy
long
questions
time ago,
asked
but
of
Putin's
you, and
probably
you've not
asking for
answered any
billions
of
and
them
billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time.
Which is
We had two
all
cases
of
where
what
we
you
paid
do, 'cause
$6
you're all
billion
about
for
rhetoric.
5 people. I got 58 people out.
I'm sorry, you're
and I
back down
paid
to
essentially
you're
nothing.
back down to 7.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
Right.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. we're the envy of the world. Like, name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies, and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw
got
around
him.
with
All
us.
right, you're back at 8.
Thank
you're back
you.
at 8, Joe.
Former
You're back
President
at 8.
Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them,
Yeah.
as you know. We
Man,
made it public.
camera,
He took none. I'd like to see
TV.
him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like, go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Never.
Thank you.
You are the
President
highest
Biden?
IQ ever.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he
job,
says
Joe.
he is. And
You're gonna lose
take
a
a
point
look
there
at what
if
he
you
is.
keep on going that back
Look,
that
I'd be
way.
happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.
Ah.
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
What is this banter? What are we doing? It's
I
not
have
civilized.
you-
You're being
I've seen
professional.
you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
you
not
don't have
act
any-
like
All right, let's
President
go.
Trump, we're going to
21
turn
We have
Let's not
serious
act like
issues.
children.
You
to
are
a
a child.
specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea The idea. I can't think of a
Trump is
single
a fan of
major
Biden.
leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here.
7.1.
That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were president.
The question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted
they're gonna win by the Supreme Court.
But the
Watch
fraud
it be so close. That's how
everything
Trump
else
wins.
was ridiculous.
He'll win like
you want,
Bush
we'll have
did.
a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these
It's all
in
rigged.
a week.
He's going to win regardless.
I will absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country.
And he's going to do it again, and this time he's going to win because he has different.
America
he has
said
different
any of your claims had any merit, state
spots.
or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accept it.
I think that moniker might work.
You can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Another commercial?
Live from Georgia.
Got to be wrapping up. They probably just get one more in.
HCM is a serious heart condition affecting as many as 1 in 200 people.
That's a lot.
Like me.
And me. It can impact how you feel and what you can do.
What the fuck is HCM?
I still felt tired on my beta blocker. So I talked to my cardiologist.
The same commercial.
About treatment advances in HCM.
Got a lot of money. They can
options.
do double commercials.
It was a breakthrough for me.
That conversation was big for me.
Talk to your cardiologist today and visit hcmrealtalk.com for more information.
I need a jog. All right.
I've spent my career working in tech, and today I run my own software company.
What the fuck? Why
I'm
do we have the
excited
same
about
commercial?
the future of American innovation, especially with artificial intelligence, where the U.S. currently leads the world.
Somebody pushed the wrong button.
American researchers are making exciting new discoveries, and U.S. companies are investing billions in AI solutions that will strengthen small businesses.
Okay.
But foreign competitors like China want to surpass America in AI. Our leaders need to protect America's competitive edge.
Here we go again. This election is
we got
heating up.
Jon Stewart.
I can't wait to watch like this.
But the Daily Show news team is barely breaking a sweat.
Every new scandal just cancels out a different scandal until you become president.
It's an ancient tactic called politics.
I don't know, just pick one.
Not all elections are created equal. Some are much worse than others.
Comedy Central's The Daily Show. Weeknights on Comedy Central. And next day on Paramount Plus.
Right. For now. Oh, this one again.
Hi there.
This is an
I'm
ad.
an ad.
Yeah, I know that.
Ever notice how some ads just speak to you? Savvy
Well, this one
advertisers
won't
place
speak to me
their
then
ads where people
again,
like
because
you
I already heard it one
actually
time,
are.
first time.
Streaming your favorite programs. That's why they choose Viant to make an
Yeah.
impression.
Yeah, Viant.
So, if you want the
I never
latest
heard of this.
AI-powered buying tools to execute and measure your connected TV campaigns on premium streaming
AI is not a
inventory,
very good
choose
word.
wisely. Choose Viant.
Explore the world the Viking way. From the quiet comfort of elegant small ships with no children and no casinos.
Oh
we actually
my
have
God, these
reinvented
commercials.
ocean voyages, designing all-inclusive experiences
Hurry
for
up.
the thinking
Maybe
person.
the last one. I
Viking,
can't handle another.
Voted world's best
Sorry,
by both
excuse me.
Travel and
I just have to
Leisure
get my
and
artwork
Condé
here.
Nast Traveler. Learn more at Viking.com.
All right, we're back.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements
Oh,
as
man, you baited us
predetermined
with that
by
last
a
commercial.
coin
I knew you
toss. We're
would.
going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate,
We don't.
do you think the tax system is fair?
No, I do not.
The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years.
Yeah.
Because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever.
Yeah.
Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you. Because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Okay, and that's the end of me, Multiversal Plazookas. I rate this as a loss for the American people. Obviously, I don't care because, like I said, my president is a African American trans, and we have a perfect country in my world. But for everybody else, I think Biden won at the end just by a little bit, like 0.5 points. Hold on one second. So that's where I stand. I think Biden won by the skinny skin, but I don't know if even people watched it past this point. So if you watched the beginning, Trump won. Stayed until the end, Biden won. But because Trump did not even answer 3 policy questions, which I thought were very important to your world's problems. But my world, I don't care. My name is, well, Lafagaloozas. Any name that you want to put there. I don't know if I'll ever do this again. I might not be able to come back. So, good riddance. And you know what? Good luck with your president. Is any of them. It don't matter. They're all bad.